Welcome to another video by AskMath.com. Let's read the directions to this problem. Graph the system of inequalities. Given y is greater than x plus 1 and y is less than or equal to 2x minus 1. Let's remind ourselves what a system of inequalities is. A system just means two or more of either an equation or an inequality. And in this case, it's inequalities. The difference being that if these were equal signs, these would be equations, but these are inequality symbols, which makes these two things inequalities. So to graph an equation or an inequality, you can notice what form these are in, and these are in y equals mx plus b form. And let's just remind ourselves, y equals mx plus b, we learned for equations, means the b is the first thing that you look at, which is the y-intercept, which is where the line will cross the y-axis, and this is what you look at second, and that's the slope, which is in the format rise over run, which tells you what direction the line is going. Okay, and then so we're going to use that for our inequalities. Now there's one difference, it's not an equal sign anymore, it's an inequality symbol, and we'll see how that changes things. So the first thing is, go ahead and let's make a graph. And you can sort of tell where you want the graph to be by sort of doing a little bit of the problem in your head. We'll try to make it sort of like this. I see a positive number here and positive slopes. This graph is going to end up sort of being a little bit more up here than it is down here, but we'll see why in just a minute. Okay, so let's take our first one. So we've got y is greater than x plus 1. So the first thing we're going to look at is the y-intercept. And that means that on the y-axis, we start at the origin, 0, 0, and we go up 1. Now the important thing when you're graphing without a ruler, you try to make the graph look as best you can, but then you make sure that you add labels. And so this is at a point 0 for the x. We didn't go to the left or to the right on the x-axis, and then we went up 1, positive 1, on the y-axis. Okay, then from there, the second value that you look at is this m value, whatever is multiplied by x. Well, we don't see 1, but remember that that's a 1, positive 1. And remember that you can divide any number that you want by 1, and it doesn't change the value of that number. So as a fraction, our slope is 1 over 1. And that's what we look at second. And remember that positive means, when you're talking about the rise, positive means up, negative is down. And remember that for a run, positive is right, negative is left. So we're going to follow, starting from our y-intercept, we're going to follow that up 1, that's a positive 1, and then right 1, because the run is positive 1. And we'll just draw a little hash mark there. Our line goes through both points. And remember that the line keeps going, so you draw it like that. Okay, now, one difference is that this isn't an equal sign, this is an inequality symbol. So, if I had a pencil, I would go ahead and just erase a little bit of this line here, and the bits that I would erase are just every so often on this line to make it a dashed line. So I'm just going to do that with a different color here. And what the dashed line means is that this doesn't say y is equal to, so if you have a point on the line, that's actually not part of the solution. It's got to be greater than that line. And here's where the next part comes in that we haven't done with equations, is that when you have y equals mx plus b format like this, except you have an inequality symbol, when you read this part, it's the third thing that you do, this says y is greater than, right? Y is being eaten by the alligator, which means that y is big, greater than. That's how you can remember that. And greater means shade above the line. Okay? So we're just going to do a little shading there above the line. Remember, this is only true when you're starting in y equals mx plus b format like this. All right, second inequality, we're going to follow the same steps, and this time we're going to start at, I'll just write it down here, this is y less than or equal to 2x minus 1, and the minus 1 is what we start with first, and that's from the origin. We go down 1, and that's the point 0, comma, -1. And then from that point, remember, divide by 2 by 1, you can do that to any number, and now we have our rise and our run. And it's a positive 2, so positive means up. We're going to, from this point, we're going to go 1, 2, and then from there, we're going to go right 1 because positive is right. So we go right 1. Okay, so then we're going to connect these 2 points, and we're kind of going through our label of our other line there, the 0, 1, that's fine. And then just keep drawing it. Best you can. Okay, and so now let's read this one. This says y is less than means shade not above this time, shade below. Okay, now the difference between these two is that this one was dashed, and it was dashed because it didn't have that extra or equals to. This one does have the or equal to, so that stays a solid line. That means any point on the on this line is part of the solution, unlike the dashed line. Now look where our shading crossed each other. From above this first line was up here, and below this second line is right here, and there's a part where they overlap, and in fact that part's going to get bigger as you go up that way. Any point in that shaded area is a solution to the system of inequalities, as well as any point on this solid line. Okay, we've got our graph. That is the answer to this problem. Thanks for watching another video by AskMath.com. Don't forget to check out the rest of the videos.